evening, treasure seekers. This is Blake coming to you live from New Mexico, and joining me as always from Washington State, it's Bryn and Cody. How's it going, guys?
Good evening. It's been a big week for There's Treasure Inside. So it's been exciting.
Yeah, I think I have to admit that the podcast that we released last week, the year one hunt and review, is probably like the worst timed podcast in history based on all of the interviews that came out either that day or the next day throughout the week. So there's a lot of information that we should have probably covered that we missed out on. So our bad. Sorry.
I mean, there was nothing we could have done to avoid that situation other than postponing our episode. But at a 2-hour episode, I think I've just recovered. My voice is just now recovered a week later. But yeah, there was a lot more we certainly could have discussed a couple days later.
Yes. So that's what I wanted to comment about. And the other thing I wanted to comment about was we had just done a What's More Likely a few weeks ago about whether we thought it's more likely that there'll be big clues revealed, like on the scale of it's not in Yellowstone, right? Whether that's more likely or not. And I think we have an answer to that. And in my opinion, a lot of the information that came out in these round of interviews for the first year of There's Treasure Inside has some pretty stellar clues in there. So I don't know if you guys agree with that or not, but that's my opinion.
I still struggle with the terminology we're using, and I think I overthink it. But it's like, are they? Yeah, I don't want to do it again. But
okay.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah, like, is he providing? He said he wasn't going to be providing clues, and now it's kind of getting loose. So yeah, I do think it's interesting that he is giving us as much as he is. It was very unexpected.
Yes, I guess I just want to be intentional with the language, and because I wonder how intentional he is being with the language that he's choosing when he has said in the past that like he won't provide new clues in interviews and other media. If he thought about that as like what constitutes a clue versus like a nudge or something, but again, I have a tendency to spiral out on these things, and I think it's happening on the terminology of what exactly he's doing here and providing new information in the interviews.
All right.
Yeah. I do think we probably should address the elephant in the room, that we did not get an interview with Jon Collins-Black. I'm going to be vulnerable and honest and say my feelings were hurt.
Well, I think they probably shouldn't be. I believe that all the interviews that were done, those podcasts reached out to him and asked for an interview in the past month or two, and they said, we'll do them all during the first year anniversary. And we didn't reach out and ask for another interview. So I don't.
Well, that would make me feel better. I thought that Jon's team reached out to them.
I don't think that's the case. So we'll do some investigative work with our friends at the other channels and see what the situation. But I don't think that's the case at all.
Okay, good. Because my feelings were hurt because I feel like we do a very nice job exclusively covering this content, and so it was a little deflating to not be presented with an interview. But if that's in our court,
we didn't try.
Fine. We didn't try. Sorry.
Most likely that's our fault, but we'll confirm if that's the case. If anybody, it doesn't seem like Jon's team is the ones to reach out to, podcast level stuff, like maybe Good Morning America and stuff like that. They actively tried, I'm sure, but I think it was just a lack of trying on our part. We'll ask around. All right. So this is going to be another special episode, not our standard episode, just because there was so many interviews, and both video interviews, and we have the one instance of the American Treasure podcast, which typically has some Jon Collins-Black interviews with Dave on there. And then there was also 6 written question responses from Jenny over at Mysterious Writings. So we're going to cover all of those things. We're doing it a little bit different in that we're just going to go through content based on whether it's overall clues, lion's share clues, and then divide the part 2 boxes up into responses to some interview questions that apply to those things. So it's kind of going to be just a big amalgamation that is really just a sequel to kind of our last episode with 1 week up-to-date things. So hopefully people can find this if they're just starting with there's Treasure Inside, which is how we marketed the last week's episode, that this will have some even more information about some of the boxes. So should we just dive right in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Bryn, you're going to be kind of leading our discussion, and we'll get comments from the peanut gallery of me and Cody as you go through.
Perfect. Yeah, so I think there'll be varying degrees of discussion probably as we go through these points, but I just kind of listed out everything that I thought was discussion worthy. And like Blake said, I think it's easiest to talk through everything by box or lion's share overall, just to keep us focused here and make sure everything is being spoken about in the correct context. So we're going to start with overall in lion's share. So I would like to start with the bookshelf behind Jon Collins-Black in the interviews that he did, the ones that we could see on video. So a few things of note. He called out that the books on the bookshelf behind him were used by his researchers. Did either of you zoom in and look at these books, take that to the next step?
I did not. I'm hoping you did? Question mark?
I didn't either.
Oh, okay.
I didn't either.
Well, I'm always just taken aback because of the controversy of whether or not he had researchers, which has come up before. And so I kind of stopped at that point. But yeah, I'm hoping maybe somebody on Discord has zoomed in on some of those or made a little list. That would be helpful.
Yeah. There was a lot of discussion about a little miniature Appalachian Footpath box on the shelf behind him. He did admit that the scale of that box is miniature, but he wasn't willing to approximate the scale of that box. So to me, from what my understanding of is like what the part 2 box size is, I actually didn't think it looked that small compared to what I was expecting. And so we have one picture that we want to show up here that I did happen to stumble across on Discord that someone, another user had nicely taken a screenshot of on, I believe, one of Seth Gould's socials. And so here, I mean, this is presumably Seth Gould holding the Pokemon box in progress. So that's pretty small. And that to me doesn't look much larger than that little, I'm taking that Appalachian Footpath box that he had behind him as like the 3D printed box that we know someone has recreated with Jon's permission. So any other thoughts on the little miniature box behind him?
Yeah, I think this is a good representation of the scale. And I agree with you that it didn't look that much smaller than what we're seeing here with the in-progress Pokemon box. So yeah, you're looking for something pretty small.
Yeah, I know people in general were kind of saying like that was a very tiny box. But if you think about the treasure, excluding the things that actually cannot fit in a treasure box, they're all pretty small. And so like you don't want to open a huge box and there's a few things rattling around in there. Like it's going to be a smaller box to open and be somewhat dramatic and full and lush. So thought that was interesting. And my most favorite thing from the bookshelf behind Jon is that in only the Treasure Hunt with Us podcast, or sorry, only the Treasure Hunt with Us interview, there was also a butterfly image hidden behind him on the shelf. So let's pull up a quick screen grab of that as well. So here you can see just the corner of a butterfly wing peeking out behind this, we're going to call this an X marks the spot shelf behind Jon.
Exactly. That's the key to the whole treasure.
Yeah.
X marks the butterfly. So that's super interesting. Why would he have put that picture of a butterfly up just for that interview, do you think?
Yeah. I mean, regardless, it means it was an intentional choice. Like it hasn't been there a long time.
I need to clearly revisit where I got in my mind the whole thing about JCB not wanting to be Forrest Fenn-esque and all coy in interviews and whatnot. Because I had that as like one of my base assumptions, or not even assumption. Like I thought it was a fact going into all of this. And this would clearly cross the threshold of not just pointing to another clue that's already in the book, but just like being coy and like, oh, hey, watch this interview. And I've set up this additional clue in here. It's frustrating. It's frustrating me.
I mean, it might have been accidental. I think the interviews.
That's what I'm still leaning towards.
The interviews he did with Calazars, I believe, was at least a day or two earlier, like probably a week earlier. They pre-recorded that with Jon Collins-Black, and then my understanding was that the Treasure Hunt with Us podcast kind of released theirs late, and I think they hadn't actually interviewed him until a couple days or a day after all the other interviews got released. So, there was time in between those interviews where this could have gotten put back up accidentally. He took it down for the other ones, forgot it was there. So a lot of speculation could be run with why there's a butterfly in the background on this interview. And
it would be quite a coincidence that it just happens to be a butterfly, right? Of all the things to put on the shelf.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
I mean, from the way he talked about the books on that shelf being from research for the book, and you can see his book on the shelf, of course, he's publicizing this book. Like, it feels like this shelf is kind of where he's like commemorating things from his work on the hunt. So
he's been very consistent over the year in using that bookshelf or a bookshelf behind him. Even in the promotional materials, there's always a bookshelf behind him. That's very consistent. Why put that butterfly there? It's a troll.
I am glad you brought back up the books for the researchers, because I actually wanted to talk about that some more after you mentioned it and we moved on. It kind of stuck in my brain, because here's what I'm doing right now. I'm visualizing, like Blake had said, there's some controversy about the researchers and who they are, if they exist, what their role was, all of that. So I'm trying to visualize, Tennant, I'm JCB. I want to write this treasure book. I need help doing all the research for all of the treasure items. So I'm going to go hire researchers to research some specific things. Do I purchase books and ship or deliver that to the researchers and say, here's the books I want you to read about these treasures, condense it into like a Spark Notes for me, and then ship me my books back so I can put them on the shelf? It kind of, something feels a little weird. I've obviously never hired researchers to do things, but I would think you would either like hire a researcher and say, here's the topics, do the research, you source the books and send me notes on it. Or if it is literally like the alternative would be like, these are people that he knows personally, and it's like, come to my house and I purchase these books and we'll all sit around and you guys help me take notes on them. But either one of those kind of it just feels kind of fishy that he'd end up with these very specific books that he didn't use, but his researchers used.
I had very similar thoughts to you, and I agree that it feels very fishy, but I could see a world where the research with his researchers, if they do exist, was probably a very collaborative experience. And so I could see where if a researcher was referencing a specific text, Jon probably acquired the same text himself to be, cross-referencing or just having a reference available.
Yeah, that's a good
to work hand in hand with that researcher.
Okay.
Yeah, is my most logical explanation, I guess, that I have.
I buy that. Yeah. Originally, when I first heard it, something just felt weird about him ending up with all these books that were used by the researchers. But I think that's a good point. That makes sense.
Let's pause here because we're a little remiss for not mentioning what reference interviews we're talking about. And all the links will be at the bottom in the show notes. The references we're talking about today are a interview with the Calazar's YouTube channel, an interview that Jon Collins-Black did with One Clue Short of a Treasure, interview with Treasure Hunt with Us, which we've mentioned, the 6 questions from Jenny from Molecular Mysterious Writings, and there's one more. Oh, the American Treasure Podcast with Dave. So all those links are going to be at the bottom, and that's everything that we're referencing today, I believe, for the direct topic areas. Sorry, continue.
No problem. Okay, jumping into our next point. So with the Mysterious Writings interview, Jon basically provided an approximate search area for each box. So in this, I'm going to include the lion's share. So for the lion's share, he said at least one clue or combination of clues will lead you to a fairly exact spot. And other clues will lead to a larger search area. Once you're close, you may be surprised how simple it is to find. So for the exact spot, my initial thought was like, is one approach to get here with numbers? That is what felt maybe logical to me. But yeah, thoughts on those?
Triangular numbers, perchance?
Perchance.
Or Cody's roadmap idea, perchance? Or maybe the symbols on the magnifying glass take you to an exact location. Yeah, I think numbers is interesting for a GPS.
I was thinking of the chapter that starts out with also like walking along the fence and like over to the dirt path. That was a very exact description of a physical place.
Yeah, that's a great point. I love that little passage because it seems quite a bit out of place in terms of the level of description to just say where he was digging up rocks in his neighborhood.
Yeah, I like that. I like that passage. The JCB quote itself, if I'm being honest, I feel like is a lot of words without really saying anything. It's like there's multiple ways to get here, and one of them will get you closer than the other. And one of them's, I mean, the most specific thing he says that it'll lead to a fairly exact spot. And I mean, what does that really tell you? What is fairly exact to him? Is it, within 10 yards of it, or is it, hey, I led you to that fairly exact park in the whole United States? So
yeah, I mean,
there's a little bit of saying a lot without saying a lot.
Yeah. In comparison to the other boxes, though, I think for whatever reason, he thinks that's an exact spot one.
Yeah.
Okay. He said that there's one box I'm intrigued that hasn't been found, as the lion's share of its clues has been solved, yet these clues haven't quite been seen to completion. I also want to pause here and say, like, I don't think all my notes are like exact quotes.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of frantically typing to keep up with some things. So just want to throw that out there. So what box do we think that he's intrigued hasn't been found? Of course, interesting that he uses the word lion's share. I guess my initial thought hearing this was like, oh, maybe past and future box. But then later on we hear he doesn't think even the 5 clues of the past and future box have been solved in the word search. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, my guess is the Appalachian Trail box. In one interview, he mentioned he thought that was probably the most popular box being searched for. So Appalachian Trail box, if he thinks a lot of people are searching for that, and there's speculation that's we know that that's one of the boxes that people have been within 200 feet of. One of 2, so that and the Pokemon box supposedly people have been within 200 feet of. Those would be my top candidates, with the Appalachian Trail box being first. And there's other reasons for that. There being 3 ways supposedly to solve that, which we'll get into later. But I think it's Appalachian Trail box would be my guess.
Yeah, I agree that it's probably one of those two, Appalachian or Pokemon. I'm less convinced that it's Appalachian specifically, as well. I've seen some interesting theories on Appalachian. It definitely seems like that. I just keep seeing the little rock pond. Everyone just goes there. Doesn't seem like there's been a whole lot of new evidence that I've been convinced by. Other than that, what I'm really interested to find out when we eventually find out is when he's referring to that he thinks that a lot of it has been solved already. Is he talking? What are the solves that he's talking about? Is it stuff that is kind of he's picking up from like checking out Discord and Reddit and it's kind of community consensus type stuff? Or is he talking about, he's received a few very specific emails just to him that other people don't know about? I'll be really interested to see if it's which one of those two things it is.
Yeah, and I can't remember which interview, but it seemed like it was a combination of online chatter that had been filtered down to him and emails that he's received. So we don't have a clear answer on that.
Yeah, and I know that we don't at this point, but when it is found and we figure out where and we figure out what those clues were, I'll just be real interested to know if it's stuff that we knew and we just weren't putting the pieces together, but we had the pieces,
right? Or
if there's other people out there smarter than me who do have the pieces, and I just don't have the pieces.
Impossible.
Okay. He said, Mother Nature seemed relentlessly hellbent on destroying one of our boxes. He had to go check on it, actually. So I know there's been speculation about what this is. What was this natural event? Was this the hurricane? People think that potentially hurricane delayed the launch of the book. This could potentially be more likely because it doesn't seem like he would have gone and checked on a box while all these eyes were on him. So this would have given him the opportunity to check on the box before the actual release of the book. Hurricane could have impacted Pokemon or Appalachian Footpath. And here, an important clarifying question in the Treasure Hunt with Us interview. He originally had said he went and checked on a box in the last year. So people were trying to figure out if that meant in 2025 or within the last year of the hunt. So let me find my quote here. He said, I don't know if I said 25. I think I said it was the last year. And then he kind of starts to say, since the release, and cuts himself off and then says, yeah, anyway, I wouldn't be so literal about it. So to me, I think he was about to say, since the release, and then realized he checked on it right before the release, potentially because of the hurricane. And then he had to catch himself because that would have then been not factual and really digging himself a hole there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's maybe my interpretation of that whole saga.
Interesting.
And then again, in case someone happens to be watching this as like their first video ever on the hunt, there was an original release date and then the actual release date like 2 weeks later. So he's probably talked himself into a corner during those couple sentences there because of that difference between its planned release date and the actual release date.
So regardless, I think I would say, based on that information, I would think he checked on a box within the last year of the book in general, not 2025 specifically.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like it's what he clarified.
I agree with that. So that makes the hurricane a pretty good candidate, I would say. Definitely.
Is he did confirm he himself went and checked on it. He is the only person who knows where these boxes are. So I find it very hard to believe that he would have found a way to do that with more eyes on him later on in the hunt, even if it was still within 2024. All right, we found out that you do not have to search outside of the book. He says it could be helpful to do additional research, but it is not required to solve treasure. I think that's a pretty bold statement.
It's extremely, extremely bold. but it was a little wishy-washy in terms of that's the one clue short of a treasure interview where he talks about that specifically. But the quote you pulled there is pretty cut and dry. You don't have to. And I think that messaging has been fairly clear, in my opinion. But there's always that one line which one clue short of a treasure specifically called out that said, if you want to do research based on something you see in the book, that might have been my exact intention. And he says, well, there you go, when she said that. So I'm leaning towards there's probably more help if you do some research outside of the book, but I think we should take this and run with it a bit more when we're thinking about, our past and future box solve that we've posted before, where we did a lot of research into Zork and things like that, and the designer of Zork. That might be a little overkill. So how does that apply to the Pokemon box? I mean, if he says we were listening to Coltrane, it seemed appropriate. What is your opinion of that now? Do you have to know anything about Coltrane and that his first name is John? Because that's not, or maybe he said we're listening to Jon Coltrane. Okay.
Yeah.
But does that mean that Coltrane is just means Coltrane because that's what's in the book? And is the circle of fifths out of play now because you don't need that because it's not in the book?
Yeah, I mean, it makes you definitely think through things in a different lens. Like, I guess me personally, I'd be like, well, Circle of Fifths feels, to me as a non-music person, like that feels like very heavy research and having to understand something pretty complex. Mm-hmm. So I would lean towards taking Jon Coltrane either as like homophones or maybe it is a reference to one of his songs or something that he's well known for, and having an understanding that each one of these part 2 boxes is kind of targeted towards a different type of person. So maybe like if you are a music person and this happens to be something musically inclined, like maybe this is a box for you if you kind of understand that and know how to run with it. So I definitely think it reins you in.
Let's counterpoint this a bit, because in the same interview with one clue short of a treasure, or is it Calazars? I can't remember. Cody called us out on this, of this being a problem, that we can't remember what interview it came from, when he's talking about Pokemon and how much research you would need to do. Mm-hmm. Then he thought that looking up an elder, it's not the elder Greninja, it's the Golem, a wise Golem, looking up that they grow moss on their shell, he didn't scoff at that at all. He's like, that's a good amount of research.
I don't know if he specifically said research. It was like the appropriate level of knowledge that you would have to have.
Right. And he said things you could easily look up online.
Okay. That's fair.
That's very frustrating still, in that he's perfectly fine with that and said that would be an appropriate amount of information that you would know. And that is just completely going against what he just said. So I think it's going to be a small amount of research offline is fine.
Yeah. Not to get too, abstract with it, but it feels like the purpose of research is to fill in holes in your knowledge of something, right? Mm-hmm. And so really it's like, a lot of the question is, what does John think an appropriate amount of knowledge on a subject is? Because I can see, like, you made the point, I think Bryn, you made the point of, like, maybe it was Blake, I don't know, there's definitely one of you two. One of you two made the point of like, what if the Jon Coltrane reference is to his most popular song? And JCB's like, well, yeah, I mean, you don't really have to do research, people just know that's his most popular song. So there's like that. But you can also take that to extreme and be like, okay, he talks about Paris and you might need to know Paris is in Europe. And it's like, well, yeah, and you don't have to do 99.9% of people don't have to do research to do that. But it's like, I don't know. It becomes very much like an exercise of what is common knowledge and what is not common knowledge. Anyway, to stop being so abstract, to me, I think a lot of all of this information and all of these quotes combined pretty strongly point to, in my opinion, that there's multiple solves to each box, and they specifically tried to make at least one of the solves, to quote his one of my most quoted ones, just boots in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also maybe other paths to the same solve that then require a little bit of deeper research. But at the same time, with all of the information that he's given us and all the quotes he's given us, I would be a lot more hesitant to do things that are like multiple layers of research away from the source material. Because I originally did a lot of that, of like, I don't know, just here's George Washington's jelly glass. What is a jelly glass? Who created jelly glasses? What type of glass is it? And it's just like, I don't think that there's any of those multiple paths that are going to require just like 3-tiered steps away of research, of just like knowing everything. That would be my gut feeling. It's going to be more straightforward than I originally had thought maybe a year ago.
Okay. So the Anbari's ring, where he tells you to read that if you have time.
Yeah.
And then connecting that to Flight of the Valkyries and the leitmotif, you think is probably a little bit out of bounds at this point?
I would lean towards yes. I would say there's 2, 3, 4 instances in the book where he specifically says, like, if you're interested in reading more into this would be a good time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that those would, because it seems like he tried to make research the need for research so sparse. I think if he specifically points it out like that, it actually puts a lot more emphasis on those specific research topics or the specific things that he's calling out.
Okay.
So I would still be pretty on board with some Anbari's ring ties.
Me too.
In some way, but yeah, more on board with that than even before, but less on board with, like I said, the like research on research on research type thing.
Okay. Enough of that.
Next. Generally speaking, adjacent states will not have treasure. He gave some hard thought, though, about like a big state. So originally, the rule that we were provided with from the beginning was there will not be more than one treasure in each state. We know that his intention was to kind of spread them across the United States to be fair and equitable and accessible to everybody. So that was just, I guess, a nice clarifier, I suppose, that is true, that the spread is what the intention is, regions.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the topic of geography, I guess it doesn't translate as well just in these bullet points, but this was kind of made within the context of geography. He didn't want to give away more information about kind of this regional or like specific approach. He said that once a couple boxes have been found, it might be narrowed down more than people realize as far as the geography of the other boxes. So that was really intriguing to me. And so I guess like one thing I could think of is like, depending on where the Pokemon box is, that really would probably help clarify the Appalachian Footpath.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I guess like why does he think that's going to really help so much in general?
Yeah, I think it will. I think the spread is going to be pretty complete in terms of his intention. So I think he mentioned this multiple times in a couple of the interviews, and in my opinion, it's just the boxes aren't going to be close to each other. So you can remove a big chunk of geography once a box has been found. That's my only takeaway from that right now.
We'll start to be able to narrow in on if Past and Future or Lion Share is hopefully on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not really at all a believer in the idea that there's like some theme that covers all 5 boxes. But if someone were to be into that theory, I think that these little interview excerpts might bolster that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The whole like maybe it makes a perfect X over the United States map, and if people find 3, it's really going to narrow in on the last 2 or something like that. But I don't think that's the case, but that would that would bolster that theory, I think, slightly.
Okay, he said it's very unlikely that someone has found a box and not reached out. So he clarified that he's not holding any of the treasure items as like an incentive to reach out to him. Some items that physically do not fit in the box are not in the box. But he says there's other incentives to reach out to him, and this is a quote, more than enough incentive.
Yeah, he didn't.
So I'm like, what? Just cash?
He did. It could be. That was my takeaway. Is like it must be more money. The topic of whether or not the boxes will be gifted, he didn't explicitly say, so that you can avoid the taxes on your finding. But he wasn't opposed to that either. It was kind of unclear. But he said he does have a large team of legal minds that can come to any solution that needs to be come to. So I'm still kind of in the camp that it's illegal, but now I'm more in the camp that it's probably also some sort of monetary incentive as well, based on exactly what he said there.
I'm kind of picturing it now being like, you found the treasure and let me know and I'll give you $100,000 in cash with it.
Mm-hmm. More than enough incentive.
That would incentivize me for sure.
That would also be a real good way of reinvigorating the community after the first one's found. They're like, hey, guess what?
Yeah, that's a good point. There's more than you even bargained for. So, yeah, that's a good point.
Kind of a counter argument, though, is like, what would be the urgent factor for reporting that to him? Someone could find it and still be kind of mean-spirited and just withhold that information and watch other people suffer, knowing, then when I do turn it in, I'm still going to get my $100,000, right? Or whatever. So is there something that could like be time sensitive? And how would Jon Collins-Black know that?
Yeah, I don't know what the mechanism would be, but when you open the box, maybe there's like a timer that starts. It's like, if you don't reach out before the timer is 0, you don't get this incentive. I don't know. I have no idea, but I didn't think about the timing aspect at all, Bryn. That's a great point.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that either.
Okay, moving on. He clarified, and this was something we talked about a couple episodes ago, that he is not putting clues in his emails to his distribution list. He said there's no hidden meaning or subtext in the copy of the emails that he is sending out. Which this gets back to the question of, well, what is he considering like a clue? So I see, Blake, you have comments here.
Well, the way he answered that question, he had to think about it for a little bit and then said that, and then followed up with this quote.
Well, I mean, there's probably things that people could technically say this is a clue, but it's not like I am obfuscating anything that I say. So all my answers there, just like all my answers here today, they'll be like, there won't be any like some sort of hidden meaning or subtext. What I say, what I write is pretty blatant.
So just thinking about, and it's hard to judge whether that's in respect to he's going to email out the responses of Jenny's 6 questions, or if that's general. So I'll caveat it with that. But my first gut reaction was he wanted to renege a little bit on what you quoted here, Bryn, which is no hidden meaning or subtext. And I think he backs off that a little bit. I mean, if we think about the email that was sent at the 1-year anniversary, and it mentions a weave, and it mentions a thread, and it mentions something else. In my opinion, that's why he says...
Well, I mean, there's probably things that people could technically say this is a clue, but
these are things technically people could say is a clue. In my opinion, the tapestry and the weave mentions, I think people can construe as a clue if we're going down the right path with that.
Good sound clip. That is, very excellent commentary.
But he reemphasizes that there's not going to be like a cipher or something in it's not, he says he's going to be explicit with it, right? It's not going to be any additional information or a clue that you can solve with the email. But I think there is information. The biggest one being that there's 3 ways to solve the Appalachian Trail. Like, that's a huge piece of information. I know we mentioned it briefly. Haven't got to the Appalachian Trail box yet, but that's a clue, in my opinion.
Yeah. Agreed.
It almost seemed like the intent of that sound clip was for him to say that you can still take what he's saying at face value, and he's not going to say something that was like a play on words. That would be like, he uses the word obfuscate, which I had to look up. It means make obscure, unclear, or unintelligible. So I think it almost seemed like that was his intent, to be like, even if I'm saying something that is pointing you in a certain direction, I'm not going to do it at the expense of what I'm actually trying to say to you. And I'm not going to like make things unclear so that I can hide things in this message.
Yeah. I'm going to listen to it one more time. I apologize.
Well, I mean, there's probably things that people could technically say this is a clue, but it's not like I am obfuscating anything that I say. So all my answers there, just like all my answers here today, they'll be like, there won't be any like some sort of hidden meaning or subtext. What I say, what I write is pretty blatant.
What I say and what I write is blatant. So meaning the things he's saying in the interviews and the things he's writing in response to Jenny, and in my opinion, in the emails, is going to be blatant. So I think official messages with Jon Collins-Black are in play. They're not going to be necessarily anything in addition to, but that's false, because he said there's 3 ways to solve the Appalachian Trail box. That's not written in the book. But yeah, it's not going to be hopefully too much in addition.
Yeah. And I like kind of what you said, that like we should not be printing off those emails and looking for ciphers.
Right.
But there's stuff in there that is useful.
Yes.
Okay. On the American Treasure podcast, so this was recorded a couple months prior to the anniversary. And in this interview, he gave a very rough guess that someone has been within 100 feet of a box. So we're getting close, folks.
Mm-hmm.
It's exciting. It's exciting to know that somebody has presumably solved a box and probably just couldn't quite find it. Or maybe doesn't have the final piece of that solve, but to be very close.
Right. And I've heard a lot of commentary about this from the other podcasts and on Discord, that it would be very easy for him to know that somebody's been within 100 feet, or in some cases 200 feet, like he said in his other interviews, based on he knows people have been on the correct trail, right? Mm-hmm. And so that could be some sort of barometer to say, at most, the treasure is 200 feet off of a trail, at least in the cases of Pokemon Box or Appalachian Trail Box, because he knows either through Discord, what's filtered down to him, or through direct emails, that people have been on the right trail.
Yeah, I think that is, like you said, that's a very nice nugget of information to have.
Yeah, the first thing that came to my mind a couple different times was talking about how close searchers have been. And I know I'm just kind of a skeptical person in general, but the first thing I thought was, did he just hide this treasure within 200 feet of a well-trafficked area? So he feels comfortable saying someone has definitely been within 200 feet. And that doesn't necessarily mean, I know he calls them searchers once or twice. There's like a searcher has been within 200 feet. So that was my original skeptical, because it's like, how would you know unless someone like sent you their log of what they did that day? Be like, here was my solve and here's where I searched. That would be one explanation. But there's definitely that part of me that's skeptical. And it's just like when he says within X number of feet, it's just within X number of somewhere where he knows a lot of people go.
It's possible.
It's that the context that he's giving it in, though, sounds like within the context of someone specifically looking for that box in the right spot. Like the way he's saying it makes it sound like someone has intentionally gone to the right spot.
Yeah. I guess my question then would be how he knows. And I'm guessing the only answer would then be some sort of direct email to him.
Yeah, or what he's hearing on Discord, Reddit.
Yeah, people have said they've been on Hemden Hollow Trail. It was hard. If he knows that he hit it off Hemden Hollow Trail, he knows people have been within 200 feet.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Jon did not know how many books he has sold in total, but he approximated somewhere between 100 and 200,000 books. It's a lot of books.
That adds up with our math that we've presented before.
I have a note here. Boxes aren't just sitting out in the open, but they're not necessarily like camouflaged either. I think I see something that you added here, Blake. So I'm going to jump to this one. No fake stump or boulder. He did a lot of research on how to protect the boxes. Easy to figure out with some research.
Yeah, so that was a series of comments from, I believe, the American Treasure podcast. He didn't buy any fake stumps or fake boulders. He said those wouldn't protect the boxes enough. He was cognizant that the boxes are made of, metals that can corrode. And so he said he did a lot of research to figure out the best way to keep the boxes preserved so they would be like they appear in the book, because they are pieces of art. But yeah, that comment about it would be easy to research, I don't know how true that is, but I believe if we say, Google, what's the best way to protect a metal box from corrosion in the environment, maybe we'll go down the right path. So whatever that answer is, we'll see. But he's also very adamant about once the first box is found, it's going to be very clear how he did it. So we can try to do research and speculate, or we can wait.
Yeah. Keep in mind, though, it's also not just the box he's protecting. It's all the treasure items inside the box. Mm-hmm. And I'm real, again, skeptical of how you can keep those like very precious, delicate items protected outdoors in any way. Because I mean, even if you're like vacuum sealing them or something, you think they're still like take like the cards. I got to imagine there's like some trace amount of moisture in there that then when it's like freezing temperatures outside,
right?
It's almost like, unless these are like air purified and conditioned boxes somehow, they're like solar powered.
No, I think you could probably very reasonably vacuum seal something, maybe even backfill it with nitrogen, or vacuum seal and add a bunch of desiccant, like moisture absorbing materials, to the bag that it's in. Like,
no, that's good. Yeah,
I think
good point.
I think there are reasonable ways that he could do that with multiple layers of bags and the legendary Pelican case. We'll see, but
yeah, I would still think that temperature could be an issue, though. I got to imagine that if that stuff freezes, it's just still doing some amount of damage. But my big takeaway is people have asked him this question so many times. There's been so much conversation about it. And I am in the camp like you seem to be, Blake, of like, all right, let's just wait and see what it looks like. And in the meantime, look for something that looks out of place in your solve location. But I'm real curious as to why he's so reluctant to just like give an answer. Because it doesn't seem like there's a lot of possible answers that would really give anything away.
Right.
So I'm curious why he's reluctant.
I think
I put it in a Pelican case. That's what
I think it takes away from just kind of the fundamental thing he's trying to do with the hunt. Like he's just trying to make it like a very boots on the ground heavy. Like when you come across this treasure, I think it should be like a very organic, surprise and delight. I think telling us what exactly to look for takes away from that experience, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Counterpoint.
Even a color of the box would be information for people that would spoil a little bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to say counterpoint. There was the one interview where he seemed very upset that maybe not very upset, but definitely pointed out that the Forrest Fenn box was partially buried and was not stoked on how that one was found. So you almost think that he would be like more open about, hey, here's what you're looking for.
Right.
So
let's clarify, the original Forrest Fenn box was partially buried.
Yes.
Don't want to cause any confusion for any new hunters. All right. T said pretty quick that you don't need 4-wheel drive to get to any of the boxes. And then he kind of backpedaled and said, one box might be kind of bumpy. So in theory, you should be able to get to any of these locations with whatever car you have. You don't need any sort of off-roading vehicle. So I think that is very helpful when you think about 3 miles from a road. It kind of maybe helps clarify the roads that you're going to be going on, and honestly probably keeps people safe.
Yeah, bumpy road certainly could indicate something like a logging trail or a gravel road that has a lot of potholes, right? But it's not going to be something that you need a high clearance vehicle for. That is very clear.
Yes. So originally and we can't remember where exactly this elusive quote came from.
Calazars, I believe.
Okay. He had said something about he would release clues in like 8 to 10 years. And so that was something the community was pretty much running with. And he backpedaled on that here. He was vague about what he was saying his timeline would be for clues, and he clarified that he hoped that maybe the whole hunt would take 8 to 10 years.
Yeah, I thought that the original I'll release clues in 8 to 10 years was a Business Insider article.
Yeah, I apologize. The interview where he talks about this currently was the Calzars, but yes, the 8 to 10 years.
And then I think
came
that
somewhere else.
That Business Insider article was then referenced by like a lot of other publications. Okay. So I think that was probably something he had said and not thought it was going to become like one of the key facts
canon
that people quote about the future of the hunt. So
yeah, he seemed very surprised by that.
Yeah, everyone like quoted, all these publications quoted it. So now when you like Google it, it's just everywhere and everyone's reporting it. And I think that, yeah, based on his reaction in that interview, it definitely seems like he did not intend for that to be a key piece of information.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he said he would be happy if the whole saga took 8 to 10 years, is what he clarified more recently in the Calazars interview.
Okay, we have even more confirmation. Hopefully this is clarifying for folks that Joy's Serenade does not relate to part 2 of the book. I should have written an exact quote here, but that is his message that he is relaying. Sounds like I'm not even going to go on a caveat. No, that was the message.
Cody, you've been solved. All
right. Jon Collins-Black is surprised that more people aren't searching for the lion's share first. And that was kind of within the context of like, that's what he would do personally, just because it's the largest treasure. So why not go for that one? I mean, it kind of got me thinking like, for how much time I've spent on this dang Pokemon box, should I be more intentional with my time and start looking for the lion's share instead? So that was kind of some fun context. We had a quote. This was in regards to asking a clarifying question about a line or quote that he provided in the American Treasure podcast that he hadn't been to New York since 2019.
Correct.
And so the clarifying question was, do you mean the state or do you mean New York City? And so he said he misspoke in the original American Treasure podcast. He wanted to clarify that he has not been to New York City since 2019. So he said, you know that there's no box hidden in New York City.
Right. And just to be clear, that was between 2019 and when he did the Good Morning America interview. He had not been to New York City between that time period. And yes, he's very explicit that there is no box in New York City.
How does him needing to clarify that New York is on limits, New York City is off limits affect your thoughts about it being in New York outside of New York City?
It's okay-ish.
Impartial.
We'll get to it in the Appalachian Trail box, but he did say he went to several states to look for sites before deciding where to hide the treasure for the Appalachian Trail box. So I could imagine that New York, or passing through New York, if he flew in somewhere and rented a car to go to multiple spots around the Appalachian Trail, that he would have stepped foot in New York or had wheels in New York for his ride.
Yeah, but it does feel like I don't know that he's reluctant to take things back. I think you obviously, as the host of the creator of the treasure hunt, you don't want to have to take things back. I think this is the first time he has that I can think of. Like said, hey, I misspoke. I need to clarify this. I almost wonder if something was not hidden in New York City, if he would have just let it ride and been like, nope, I haven't been to New York. And so then he felt the need to clarify because there's something in New York.
But I don't think he would have thought to address this. It was presented to him as a question. So I think if maybe he wouldn't have been aware that he misspoke otherwise. But I think if it was something that he realized earlier on, oh, shoot, I misspoke, he would have put out a statement. I don't know if that feels too obvious. I don't know.
Yeah, it seemed like he was a little surprised by the question, so hadn't thought about it. And so easy reaction is just to say he meant New York City without necessarily saying he was in New York. So he didn't say that, but he did want to clarify.
I do also want to say that when he said, okay, now you know there's no box hidden in New York City, he was kind of laughing as if, I don't want to say maybe that would be obvious, but it made me think, is that kind of a silly thought in his head because he knows he hid them in not urban environments?
Mm-hmm. Good point.
Potentially. He almost said it like a throwaway, well, now you know it's not in New York City. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but that just made me think, well, maybe there isn't an urban solve here like we thought maybe there could be.
Yeah, we'll have to revisit the what's more likely.
Yeah. So that's me reading too far into it. Okay, this is one that I'm losing sleep over. Solves don't necessarily reveal the names of the place. And then he thought, maybe one. But then, so how do you find the place?
Right. I don't put a lot of stock into this comment. I think the question was, do the clues lead you to a name of a place, or do the clues lead you to the location? And he said, maybe one box, you'll have a name of a place clue. The others lead you to a location. But
so is that saying there would be a name hidden in a clue as a clue in context? Because I feel like clues have to lead you to a name location. I don't think you can just take themes to
my first take would be, for example, Pokemon Box, it says hemmed in. People are going to Hemmed In Hollow. That would be not saying the name of the place, but leading you to the place. Yeah. Versus say there's a cryptogram in past and future, and it cryptograms out to, Hemmed In Hollow. And that would be a clue that is the name of the place.
Yeah.
That'd be my first way of interpreting what he's saying.
Yeah, I would not lose sleep over that. It's not a great question, in my opinion, that you can take a lot out of, because the same way that he doesn't include maps in his book, you still have to be able to navigate somewhere. And I feel like it's impossible to do that if there's no names that clues lead you to.
All right, then let's move on. I don't want to dwell on that because I hate it. It's just been okay. This is one now, on the other hand, that I'm very fond of. Once a solve is revealed, it won't necessarily help you with the others.
You like that? Why?
This is the exact point I was making a few episodes ago about how you would need your solve to be unique, your solve methodology to be unique to the box that you're working on. And so this is confirmation that each part 2 box, like he says in the part 1 or part 2 introduction, has its own unique solve.
Mm-hmm. No, that's good.
I was happy to hear it come from the horse's mouth.
Okay.
Well, you guys didn't seem like super convinced of that. Maybe it was because I was saying I felt like the solve methodology should be in line with the theme of the chapter as well.
Right.
Okay, moving on. This is our last one in the general section. There are a lot of quotes in the book. Some I like, some are humorous, some may have more significance.
Yeah, that's a bit of a paraphrase from the American Treasure podcast, but Dave asks him about the quotes that are in the book, specifically about the Appalachian Trail box, the Rainbow Bridge quote. And then they diverge into these other quotes in the book. So there are some quotes, as suspected, I suppose, that may have more significance. So that's cool. A little nugget there.
All right.
Yeah,
anybody?
If we combine that with if you want to take it on face value, that you don't need to do additional research and don't have to look into those quotes, then you're probably working with the words contained in the quotes.
A leitmotif. Rubik's Cube.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do with your one wild and precious life? All right, next.
All right. Does anybody have any last interview thoughts from line share content or general clarifications we've received?
Don't think so.
Okay. Let's move on to the Forrest Fenn box. These are all going to be shorter. Don't worry, everyone. So circling back to the mysterious writings question, where she asked about specific search locations for each box. For the Forrest Fenn box, he said, if you arrive at the search area, you only need to be thorough. The search area isn't large. So I think it makes it pretty clear that when you get to the right area, you're gonna know that you're in the right area. And it's well, what's that look like?
I was just thinking about the people that were 200 feet away. They didn't know they were in the right area.
Well, we don't know if anyone's been 200 feet away from the Forrest Fenn box.
That's true. Okay.
So to me, I guess I've with the Forrest Fenn box, I picture an overlook with a beautiful view or something like that, where if you get to this overlook area, you only have so much of this place to look, right? Do you guys have other interpretations on what that could mean?
No,
right.
I didn't think about that quote too much, just because.
Yeah,
as you know, I'm not onto the Forrest Fenn box that much.
He clarified that all you need is the poem. So this other stuff that we were looking into, the chapter copy, you don't need it. Doesn't even sound like it's probably particularly helpful.
A treasure hunter, the use of sonar, things like that, which I really liked. Dang it.
I know.
That's why they're horseshoes and hand grenades, not dead ringers.
Yes, so you can literally just focus on the poem and you should be able to find the box. He said that while searching for Forrest Fenn, he went to Yellowstone just to see it, but not to hunt. So we can assume, and this doesn't mean this is anywhere close to where he hid the box, but to where he hid the box. But within his original search for the Forrest Fenn treasure himself, he was at least within a reasonable proximity to Yellowstone for it to be something that he felt was reasonable to kind of jet off and do.
But we don't know how many different locations he looked for Forrest Fenn's box, so it's still wide open. Wide open.
Yeah. And also there's different ways of interpreting that, right? When you're saying while searching for Forrest Fenn's box, was it like literally while he was searching, like he was in his car out searching for Forrest Fenn box in the place he thought it was, or it was while he was searching for Forrest Fenn box, as in between 2016 and 2020.
It's
the period of while he was searching.
Unclear.
Because that's actually the latter one's actually the way I interpreted it the first time I heard it, which would not really give you much additional information.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have a different, I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum, but us speculating is not going to help anyone. So we can move forward for the sake of time.
All we do is speculate on the podcast. You can't say that.
I was going to say
I guess. So for my gut is that he was generally close enough to Yellowstone while he was like boots on the ground searching for the Forrest Fenn box that he popped over. Pop may be generous, could have taken a detour to check out Yellowstone.
Okay.
That's how I'm choosing to take that.
No problem.
Let's jump into Pokemon Box.
Yay.
Again, our clarification on search area. He said it's a larger search area, but as mentioned, some searchers are already within 200 feet. He said he's fairly certain searchers have been on the path that leads to the Pokemon Box. It's likely that some of them have been fewer than 200 feet from this box. So the main word that jumped out to me was path. Like if I'm just speaking the sentence in a interview, how I've been picturing it is very much a trail. And I feel like trail is just what you would naturally say. So I thought it was interesting that he said path, because to me that's more of like a paved, like
Really?
not so far out in the wilderness.
Really?
Yeah, I was surprised he didn't use the word trail.
Would it
But
influence you in any way to remind you that he chose to call the Appalachian Trail the Appalachian Footpath?
That's actually a wonderful point. I'm going to take back everything I said. And in the Pokemon chapter, doesn't he say they took off up the trail? So, anyways, I'm probably reading into something that there's nothing there.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like, go ahead.
I was going to say a path, in my opinion, is like smaller than a trail, narrower than a trail. I kind of think you like are on a trail and then there could be a little path off the side. So I was thinking of it actually exactly opposite than you were.
Interesting. That's a good point. Yeah, like a little deer path or something.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of these are starting to make the idea of a rural or urban, I can never remember which is which, a city type solve less and less likely, I think, because it's definitely sounding like he's very comfortable using terminology that's like kind of out in the wilderness, traversing, which would be a shame because I really liked the idea of one of those little urban solves.
Yes.
That's so funny. To me, a path is like a sidewalk. But
oh, really?
anyways.
So you'd think this could be an urban solve?
That's just my initial gut reaction. So ultimately, I mean, we kind of started with this too, but like, what's 200 feet off a trail? Like, what if you? I mean, I guess if you're very confident in a trail or a path that you like, that kind of gives you a ballpark, like we said, like what's notable within this boundary at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So
maybe
I think that's really helpful.
Yeah. Maybe you're on a path. I don't know if that was an actual question that you wanted answered, or if that was a rhetorical question. But I would say if you're on a path for the Pokemon Box specifically, if you're walking down a path that you think is the right path, and there's a little bit of an opening, and you see that you're like crossing a stream and you see that water feature that you kind of see in that purple image. I think that's probably what you'd be looking for 200 feet off of the path.
How dare you cross a stream?
Yeah, faux pas. Breaking rules.
A trickle.
Speaking of the purple photo, we have clarification that the purple photo was literally taken by Jon Collins-Black as he was out hiding the Pokemon box, which I think was very heavily implied in the chapter, but it was still kind of surprising and shocking to hear this.
That's a big one, in my opinion. That's huge.
I think so too. I have put a lot more stock into, hard to believe that there is more emphasis I could put on the purple photo, but I'm putting a lot more emphasis on the purple photo.
In what way?
That I think the sounds so dumb to say, that I think the geography of the area really needs to resemble the purple photo. Like, I had a lot of places that I really liked and had good leads on for a lot of other reasons. I'm like, well, it just doesn't quite fit the type of landscape that you're seeing here in the purple photo. And I made excuses for that. And now I think I can't do that anymore.
So do you think, if he's confirming this is a photo he took in real life and then altered it a little bit to make it a clue and include it in the book,
Stop.
and added a Mewtwo, do you think that knowing that, is that enough for that to be all that's in the image? Or do you still think that, even given all that, you think he must have put other Pokemon or other hidden objects in the image? Because to me, I'm even more on the side now of it's just the Mewtwo. It's a picture of where he hit it.
No.
Altered a little to turn it purple, put a Mewtwo in it. That's it.
It's less indicative of that, Cody, because
it's more indicative of that.
You think he found that formation and took a picture of it, and those rocks just look like 3 evolutions of Charmander? Yeah, right. That just happened to be in there.
It's just a Rorschach test or whatever.
It's not a Rorschach test.
The whole argument.
That looks like a real rock face to you.
Yes, the whole argument for there has to be more than a Mewtwo is that, well, what else is there? He's going to use up all this real estate in the book and just show a rock face. Well, now you know the rock face is where the treasure's hidden.
It's not. He doesn't say that's where the treasure's hidden.
But it's a real
place.
It's a real
on the trail, on the path, around the path that he went to. It's a real place he stopped while hiding the Pokemon box.
And towards the end of his trip.
Yeah.
I believe he said that too. But that is.
But we also have very clear clarification from him on multiple occasions now that he clearly became very comfortable using AI to edit photos, to create images, and he was using different programs himself to varying degrees to add on to that.
That frog right there, you think is just a Rorschach test from the picture he took.
Oh my gosh, yes. The frog I'm less confident in than even your crazy 3 evolutions of Charizard.
I guarantee you, and I'll make a bet with you right now for like $100 that when the solve comes out, that those were obviously edited in, and John will confirm that is a Charmander, a Charmeleon, and a Charizard.
I think the last time that we got heated on the podcast about this exact topic, we made a bet. I think it was like a blizzard or something.
I'm raising the stakes to 100 mini blizzards.
Well, that's a lot more.
$100 that he purposely put in the 3 evolutions of Charizard in there.
Yes.
All right, deal.
And when he posts the picture, if he posts the solve and shows that picture that he took, there's not going to be this frog. There's not going to be any semblance of this 3 evolutions of Charmander.
I do think he distorted the image, but I think the distortions are random. I don't think that there's something you're specifically supposed to find in there other than the Mewtwo, and it is a distorted purple image. It's reflecting his state in the story of being disoriented.
All right. So when this is all said and done, we're going to request an interview. We're going to request a 1-minute interview with Jon Collins-Black just to ask him that question so we can settle our bet.
Yes, it's going to be our first YouTube short, and it's going to be 10 seconds long, and it's going to be him saying yes or no, and that's it.
There is a lot going on with the purple photo, whether it is just methods he used to distort it. I mean, if you look very, very closely at the photo, like, you can see places where it doesn't add up. So I can't even remember how we got here. Oh, that the purple photo was originated with literally a photo he took while hiding the box. Woof. Okay. Next. So this is what we were talking about, the clarification on, like, how much Pokemon knowledge do you need to have to solve the Pokemon box? He said you do not need to be a Pokemon connoisseur. You can easily find the info online. And this was this is why we didn't get a Jon Collins-Black interview.
Oh, but you don't have to do research outside the book.
You don't have to research the book, but online research doesn't count.
I'm defending him here in that he's just clarifying, like, the appropriate knowledge base as a baseline. Okay. So Jam with Treasure Hunt with us asked, like, is Gollum growing moss on his shell within the spectrum of normal knowledge to acquire? And Jon Collins-Black, I see your faces. Jon Collins-Black. Stop. He agreed that was, like, a normal level of information to have. He then continued to say, you don't need to buy cards. You don't need to know hit points, stuff like that. Cody, pull it together.
It's all in the book, but if you want to look.
You don't need to know hit points, though. Don't need to buy cards.
Put yourself in his shoes. Put yourself in his shoes.
I know, but
like,
I'm putting myself in his shoes, and I think he's being too incorrect with what he's saying about research outside the book.
You should have just said you don't need to do a lot of research, but that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And let's just defend him a little bit more. I mean, he states that you don't need all the clues, right, to solve the box. So it's possible that you can derive a reasonable solve from everything in the book. And maybe there's these Easter eggs or little bonus clues, or even a whole different solve that you can derive if you do research outside the book. But so let's not be completely unreasonable here, but he should have just said you don't need any information outside the book when Jam asked that question.
I'm sorry, I got a little worked up after the purple image debate. So I'm very on edge right now. I'm just the juxtaposition of the you don't need to do research and then the, oh yeah, that's a good amount of research to do. Just really
gotcha.
Set me off there for a second.
If and when Jon Collins-Black has a book signing event,
I
would like him to sign my book. That's all.
You're blacklisted. All right.
Not me.
I'm going to have him sign the Pokemon picture.
Yeah.
I'll say, John, can you just sign
next to the Charizard?
Can you just sign on the Charizard and see what he does? Ooh.
Solved.
And then you can ask him to sign next to the Charmander. And then you can ask him to sign next to the Charmeleon. And let's see what happens. All right. We have a plan. And then I get
sign my research notes.
100 mini blizzards coming my way.
Okay. In the American Treasure podcast, he refers to the Pokemon box as far-fetched fiction.
Ugh.
What's that? What's that response?
Well, we had liked,
Not your cup of tea.
We had liked that he said far-fetched in chapter 3 or 4.
Oh.
And now he used it just in passing, so I kind of discount that as him explicitly putting far-fetched into a part 1, which makes sense that he used it. But it was very ironic that he used it in the context of the Pokemon box.
Yeah, I think it's a coincidence, and a really crazy coincidence, because I was big on the far-fetched in part 3. I'm just totally sold on the part 1 and part 2 are different. Pulling references from part 3 to help with the Pokemon box isn't going to get me anywhere. I'm sold on that. I do think it's strange that you're saying
far-fetched is a name of a Pokemon. Sorry, we didn't make that clear. Sorry, Cody.
I do know that was a really good clarification. I'm glad you said that. I do think it's strange that you would say, oh, he used the word far-fetched in an interview, so that means it's not likely that far-fetched is important in the book. But then when he has an interview or an email where he talks about weaving and tapestry, you think, oh, that means it's important in the book. What's the logic there? You're
in the response, just in the way that he said in the interview, it was far-fetched. It was very in passing, in my opinion. It wasn't he didn't say it in a way that he was purposeful in saying it. It sounded very natural to me.
I agree.
That's just
I agree. Ultimately, too, I was just interested in knowing why including certain words or phrases in some instances for Blake seemed to.
And this was from the American Treasure podcast, I believe, which is him and his friend, right? It wasn't one of these formal interviews where maybe I'd have a little bit different take on that, but I don't think he knew what questions were coming. So just saying it in passing, it did seem very natural and casual to me.
All right. He saw raccoons while hiding the Pokemon box.
So Dave asked him in the American Treasure podcast what wildlife he saw while hiding the boxes. And that was the only thing he could remember, is that he did actually see raccoons while hiding the Pokemon box.
It's kind of interesting, actually. Okay. Let's jump into the past and future box. So for our approximate search area, this is probably the juiciest one. If you're closer to the over than the under, while in between, there's only so many places that can be hidden safe from people and nature.
Huge clue. Because it represents that what our intuition is that the cryptogram was boots on the ground, and that pretty much 100%, in my opinion, secures that notion.
Yeah, that definitely seemed like one of all the interviews, probably one of the top 2 or 3, like, write this down and think about it for a minute kind of takeaways.
So is there any does this change or reinforce what you guys think over, under, in between could mean? I mean, to me, it makes it very much like a physical thing, where before I think I was thinking it could potentially be much more abstract, unless the intention is to connect an abstract idea of over, under, in between to then physical locations. But I guess at this point, I feel like just literally there's going to be something like a bridge for over, under the bridge, under a tunnel in between, you know,
something like that.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point. That I guess in my mind, I always thought it was something physical, so it doesn't change my opinion, but it sounds like it changed yours a little bit.
Yeah.
I was definitely open to it being something more metaphorical. I think I was definitely in my solves looking at physical things, but I was open to it being a metaphorical thing. And I think the second part about people and nature is equally important. And know that that's kind of a feature of the overs and the unders, is that it's frequented by people and open to the elements, at least one of the two on either end.
Yeah, it's interesting the safe from people. So I guess right off the bat, I'm like, well, is this a more populated area then, or like a very popular trail? When it's safe from people, I guess I almost thought like I pictured eyes on him while he was hiding it. Safe from people. I guess that doesn't really make sense. Safe from people, it would be more like stumbling upon it, I suppose. And then safe from nature is also really interesting because all these boxes are equally protected in these whatever box or container that these are all in. So what is the additional layer of nature that this needs to be protected from?
Yeah. I mean, K-Pro asked in the Calazar's interview whether, they need to be worried about leaves falling and then covering it up. And he was very dismissive of that. So it could be that these are all hidden in some sort of similar fashion and that they are all protected from the elements in some way and that they're hidden in a nook of a rock between rocks that are under some sort of overhang. But to imagine a scenario where falling leaves don't cause a problem seems pretty unique in my opinion, that he was very dismissive of that. So are all of them high up somewhere, like not just at ground level, because you could imagine that leaves blowing in. But he seemed pretty dismissive of that, or just didn't think about the question fully. I don't know.
Or could just be dismissive of the idea of being covered in leaves being a problem. Because I know if I was in his shoes, I'd be like, hey, I hit it. If it gets covered in leaves, it's not covering, it may be obscuring the box, but it's not, as long as it's not obscuring like a significant clue. If the Forrest Fenn, if the white mark on the seat got covered in leaves, that's like, okay, that's kind of tough to deal with as a treasure hunter. But I think if the box ends up covered in leaves, I don't know, maybe it's a buried conversation. Is it buried then?
Yeah, I mean, if these are on the ground, we just saw how small these part 2 boxes are, presumably. The box that they're in, or the container that they're in, must be fairly large, because if they're on the ground and they were not contained in boxes much larger than the treasure box themselves, it is fair to think that over time, 8 to 10 years, that could very well become a buried treasure. So it's got to be something pretty substantial or tall, or I don't know.
Well, I just had the thought. He says it could be covered in snow, right? If he's allowing it to be covered in snow, I think covered in leaves, not buried, just has leaves on it for a while. That's True. That's part of the hunt. Try and find it. I think that would probably be my take. If I was already in that camp with snow, that it doesn't necessarily always have to be open to the atmosphere.
Good point.
Touché.
Good point.
Well, I've argued both sides, but I like where I ended, I think. I also want to draw attention to the phrase "closer to" in that quote there, because I haven't done a lot of thinking about the over under in between, but when I have, it's definitely been like there's something over, there's something under, and the in between's like on one plane, and you'd be looking for it this way. This way, like there's a bridge over you, there's maybe 2 walking paths and one's underneath, and you're looking for it in this direction. You're saying you need to be closer to the over than the under, so you're almost like you're moving on this plane.
Interesting.
In some way, there needs to be a way of becoming closer to the over than the under, whereas I was thinking you're moving through between the two.
I always kind of pictured it as linear, opposite of how you were thinking about it, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you're thinking of like a point up top, a point down bottom, and
I think it's like if you were walking on a trail, like Bryn said, and you take a bridge, that's the over. And then you hit the under, that's the tunnel. just as an example, right? But those are in two different physical spaces, and then in between is your search area, and then he's saying it's closer to the over.
To the bridge.
So it's in between an over and an under that are two separate things.
That's how I was always thinking about it, actually.
Well, that's much easier. I'm trying to even picture something that's over, under, in between, all in one thing.
Yeah.
I'm looking for things like, all right, I need a tunnel that goes under a bridge, and then in between the two, there's a walking path.
It'd be fair.
That's a fine solution as well, but that's why we talk about
This will be a lot easier to find valid areas.
All right, let's move on to the next one.
I will also say real quick, sorry, last thing. Of kind of like how I said there's like 2 or 3 that really felt worthy of like writing down and thinking about for a while. I will say this is another one that feels more like new information, full on hint in my mind.
Clue.
This is
a clue.
Yeah. Not what I was expecting.
It's clue. The Cody clue stamp of approval.
Is it approval stamp or is it a stamp of frustration?
Designation. He acknowledges that there are different levels to the word search, and he is cautionary to how many levels. So do we think that he's saying like are there 5 levels? Does each level get us a clue?
That's very open to interpretation. You can explain that away in many ways. Like level 1 is the words, level 2 is the anagrammed words that are left over, right? That could be considered 2 levels. So it could be 5 levels, could be 3 levels if it's in line with Ready Player One. But yeah, it's in my opinion, the cautionary of how many levels is, in my opinion, he's seen the Dr. Krypton solves.
Yep.
And cautioned people, I think, as we have as well, that that's a little extreme. He said, don't go infinite levels.
Yeah. He also says he doesn't think the 5 clues have been identified in the word search. And I'm hoping one of you has better memory here. Did he say it as if he doesn't think any of the 5 clues have been identified, or not all 5 have been identified? Okay.
Not
like
all 5. Not all 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Cal Luzars did clarify with him that he has not watched their past and future box or word search special episode, which I think they reviewed a ton of different solves with the word search. But to me, it's like if Jon Collins-Black has a team out there, has his eyes and ears, like this, I think would be reported back to him if that due diligence is done. So I feel pretty confident that he's confident that the 5 clues have not been all discovered.
Just occurred to me, it's kind of interesting, not super interesting, but kind of interesting that he references over, under, in between and references the 5 clues, because both of those are not, quotes from the book. You have to do some level of solve to get to those 2 that he's referencing. So
he's confirming.
Is he just saying, okay, I understand communities come to the consensus, we kind of all know this, it's common knowledge now? Or does that maybe indicate that, the cryptogram was something people solved instantaneously? Is that first layer of the word search kind of, in his mind, that same level of like, oh, it's just for fun, and now you do the real solve on top of that?
Interesting.
I don't know, something I'm thinking of in real time.
Yeah, I agree, though, that I think it's kind of funny that he's just like speaking to these things that you just have to solve. Like, okay, well, now this is just a fact.
And I'm not surprised. No one's surprised that if you would take them as facts, but I think there's more to think about there a little bit.
All right. One last note for Past and Future Box. In the American Treasure podcast, he says he wanted to do a few puzzles in regards to the Past and Future Box. So that's not necessarily new information. I think we could infer that from the part 2 introduction. But when you do think if you are creating a treasure hunt and you want to do a few puzzles, like maybe try to think through that in a way of like, what are some of the stereotypical or not stereotypical type puzzles that would be cool to put into your treasure hunt book? Like when he says look into escape rooms, like I think we just need to be thinking through like some of these different methods, or what would you find in games magazine or something like that, and how could that be applied in different ways to help us get to these 5 clues? The games magazine.
World of puzzles.
Like, I don't think he's developing his own puzzle methods. Like, I would imagine he's applying some known puzzles or escape room type puzzle techniques. So nothing new there, but just good emphasis.
Confirmer.
Okay, last box, Appalachian Footpath. We learn there are 3 distinct ways to solve. One gets you to a fairly exact location. The second method gets you to a slightly larger location, but you will have full confidence you're in the right spot. And the third solve might require more searching, but it's very doable.
Major clue alert. Major clue alert.
Yeah, big clue. And I think
Cody's stamp of designation.
yeah. I think Cody and we kind of had an offline conversation about this, but like the fact that there's 3 ways to solve it, like even if you can identify one, I'll let you speak to it, Cody.
This is my favorite one. This is my favorite of all the quotes. I do like that past and future one, but this one's my favorite. I'm actually working on a solve right now. Well, I'm working on a method right now based off of this quote. Kind of got me, was my inspiration for it.
Okay.
Basically, I mean, if we're really just using the map and he has 3 different ways of solving for some sort of location, whether that be really close or just the general area, but something close enough to give you the general area in 3 different ways, seems so hard to do. So my first thought was, if I come up with 3 different ways, just 3 different methods using that same map that you'd get to a location, and forget about actually like doing the steps to like make the connections and find the locations, but just identify 3 different methods. Then the options are either at least one of my methods is a correct method for solving the map, or there are 6 methods, which I don't think is, I mean, I guess it's possible, but I think it's very unlikely. So I think that I can at least, I don't know, I'm kind of doing some weird circular logic, or not circular logic, just some weird mind game with myself to convince myself that if I can come up with a few different methods for solving it, that there's a high likelihood that one of those methods is a correct method, at least.
Yeah, because
That makes sense.
3 feels like a stretch as is. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, I think I'm really just excited that there's more than one way to solve it. And it feels like there's an obvious 1 or 2 ways to solve it. And I have never deviated from that. And I'd be surprised if many people have deviated from those obvious methods. And the fact that there's at least 1 more means that there's a lot of opportunity to like look for more unique approaches of how we could have encrypted information in that map. I guess that's why I'm excited. So I'm excited to check out more unique means and methods for creating solves. I also really like that he said you'll have full confidence in the right spot for one of the methods, which leads me to believe that there's going to be something that makes you feel confidence on the level of like the cryptogram, not the cryptogram, but like the word search in past and future, where something works out just so perfectly. You're like, oh, this must be right. I'm so certain this is right. So I'm really excited to try and kind of reverse engineer how he could get that level of confident information out of that map. he would have had to have structured it. So I don't know. I'm just really excited about this quote for some reason.
Yeah, especially there's only so much information you can work with on that map.
Yeah.
And he did clarify all you need is the map.
Don't you think this is going to make that box found in like the next week or two? Because if you have one of the correct solves and now you know there's 2 more solves, it seems like you'll be able to put the pieces together more easily on how to solve the other 2 ways. Like somebody's going to get this pretty soon. If they have general confidence and now they know there's a way to get to it exactly, seems like there's going to be tons of people that are ahead of you, unfortunately, Cody, but it seems like this is going to get solved pretty quickly if that's the case, in my opinion.
I don't know.
He also mentioned when he was searching for spots, I was only looking down the Appalachian Trail, but that doesn't mean it's like, there are other trails off the Appalachian Trail. In fact, I think that people have already discovered at least one trail that became very popular off the Appalachian Trail based on my map, which is the Little Rock Pond Trail. I'm 90% sure he's referencing there.
Sure he is. Do you think that he would make that reference?
If it were correct.
Yeah.
I don't
Doesn't
think
it
so.
kind of feel like he wouldn't make that reference if it was correct?
It's such a good match, though.
I honestly think it's too good of a match. When I saw that it was that good of a match, I was like really excited for like a minute, and then I thought, it seems too easy. It seems like someone who knows more about maps and computers could create some sort of algorithm that's just like scan the whole trail, find something that roughly matches this shape, and it would be something that you could get around the treasure huntery way of solving it with technology. And I think he'd be aware that could be done, and I don't think he'd set it up like that.
Interesting.
I'm in the same boat as you, Cody, but for different reasons, maybe in more of like a normal person brain.
Okay.
Maybe, no, I'm saying maybe more of like a simple mind. Like, what if
neither one of those are good choices of phrasing.
Someone who's less tech savvy. How about that? The general person who can't develop an algorithm and run a search on their computer for this. Like, what if someone just happened to be local to that area and they saw the map and they were like, "Oh, well, that's out there. Now I know what it is."
Weekend, yeah.
Right. That seems a little too easy.
So you think it's a coincidence? Or do you think it's a red herring?
I don't think it's I'm just not big on malicious red herrings, like purposely misdirect people. I still don't think he's doing that. Just doesn't give off those kind of vibes to me. But I think I would lean coincidence, probably 80-20 coincidence versus it's actually leading you to Little Rock Pond. I think if it is leading you to Little Rock Pond, and that could be valid, I think it would be like you're somehow supposed to know that you start at Little Rock Pond and then there's still steps to get somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would take Little Rock Pond as a clue in that instance, like just the same as, oh, I can identify one of these pictures as this. Like, well, I have identified this part of the trail as that, and that is now an additional clue to then get me to the correct location.
Mm-hmm.
Is my
funny enough, after having just said that, the triangle that starts off Little Rock Pond says begin here. Mm-hmm. So could the begin here just literally reference begin at this Little Rock Pond segment, and then all these other stuff is stuff from there?
Yeah.
Could be.
It's possible.
Could be. Yeah. Yeah, it's a very if that is where it is hidden, and that would be a very bold statement of him to just toss that in there. Okay, what else do we have? Searchers have also been within 200 feet of this box. Like we said, all you need is the map. On the American Treasure podcast, he said he used AI to create the map and then used other programs to do art on top of art. So some additional notes on this. The map background / template / paper was generally AI. I think that's a huge clarification. When we think about like getting into the texture of the paper, I think
The crinkled edges in particular, right?
yeah, they're the crinkled edges. I would say that's definitely within the template category, is how I would interpret that. Smaller images were AI. Some things on the map that are not AI and that I didn't draw, and also that someone else didn't draw. Oh, there are some things on the map that are not AI. He didn't draw, and someone else also didn't draw. So take that for what it's worth.
Some things on the map that AI didn't draw, and he didn't draw, and no one else drew.
And there's no stock or copyrighted images. So what does that leave us?
Well, even if it was a stock or copyrighted image, someone drew it, right?
Yes. So
like photography?
Yes, in my opinion, it's photography. And I think we get a hint later on in the American Treasure podcast that confirms that, in my opinion. So some of these are actually photographs. And in my mind, it's like the skier or the dog, I guess, that seem most appealing. Or maybe there's something else that's not obvious here. But later on in the interview, he says something about taking a picture of the bear when they're talking. When Dave asks him about what wildlife he ran into, Jon Collins-Black says, "Oh, so you really want to know if the bear is something I took a picture of?"
Oh, okay.
So I think
did he say there's no stock images? That was something that he says part of his quote.
Correct. It's interspersed in that American Treasure podcast, the most recent episode. Those quotes.
So, which would leave us with a picture that he took, because anything else would be stock image.
Mm-hmm. Or something that AI drew, or he drew, or another human drew. In my opinion, that leaves photography. And then that bear quote kind of bolstered that. But I'd be open to hearing other opinions on that topic. Not even necessarily from you guys, but from what the community comes up with as ideas.
And you were thinking the skier?
Skier looks most photorealistic in my opinion.
Man, I mean that bear just does not
look real, right?
What about the footprints? I guess those could be real footprints that he stamped on there and shrunk down.
Okay, here's what I would think is photography.
Okay.
So just
Derpy
northwest of the derpy bear, northwest of the begin here triangle is that weird shape. I would think I feel like that's photography.
Like a distinct rock or something in the area.
Yeah, like, I mean, even if that was like if the scale is so off here, like you could almost look and be like, that's two tops of a mountain, like two mountain peaks, and then like the trees in front of it, right?
I think we had talked about that during the bonus episode that could be a satellite image.
Oh, I don't remember that at all.
I forgot about that.
But to me, like, that's just such a weird. I could totally see that be a picture that he took. And like the way it's overlaid, like all he would have to do for that is like really up the contrast of the photo.
Mm-hmm.
And then that overlays nicely if he just edits the transparency. What else?
I'm kind of wondering if there's anything in here that he took a picture of that is something that's not generic. like this spear or arrow or the bolt of fabric. Yeah, they seem like there's not enough like differentiating features on those for it to be anything specific, but like something where you could actually like do research and like
Yeah, that's a good point.
like something well known.
So, I mean, all these, like, if you think of things that are like the roll of fabric, whatever it is, I think AI could easily generate that. So here's another one that I think is photography. Just north of the bear, you have what looks like a few trees, like you have a tree trunk.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could see him taking a picture of a specific location there, and that just like really turning down the transparency, making it super discreet, the background.
Yeah.
Like I think he would only be using photography if it's something that AI can't perfectly replicate, or if he needs to be showing an exact match with the location in real life.
Right. I can buy that. Yeah, I'll be interested to see what the community comes up with based on that quote. All right.
Yeah, it's a really, really interesting.
Now we're all
one.
just staring at our books.
Yeah, it's a podcast.
Okay. All right. Moving on.
To our audio listeners, we apologize.
I already kind of mentioned this, but to make sure we have it in the correct box here, JCB went to several states before deciding on where to hide the Appalachian Footpath Box. And all you need is the map in reference to the Rainbow Trail Passage.
Yeah, so this is another American Treasure podcast reference where Dave asks him about that Rainbow Trail Passage at the beginning of the Appalachian Trail Footpath text. And he mentions all you need is the map. And that his mother's favorite song, JCB's mother's favorite song, is Over the Rainbow. So that may be why he selected that passage, because it's about a trail and it's about a rainbow.
All right. Those are all my notes. They're not all my notes. Those are all of our notes.
Yep. So we were wrong if anybody said what's more likely that there's not going to be any more major clues besides it's not Yellowstone, because we just got a whole bunch right there. So yeah, unfortunately or fortunately, we can expect more depending on your perspective. He's not going to be Forrest Fennish and releasing pertinent information that's not in the book. That's patently false at this point. So, all right. Any parting thoughts? You heard mine.
I would say, I mean, kind of on the same topic or same sentiment. It's like, yes, now Jon Collins-Black content, interviews, emails are all must view, must read.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing can be overlooked.
Yes.
Yeah. There's I will say it seems like of the information that he gives us, I think in general it makes it more simple. So I'm grateful for that. I don't think by the information we receive, it opens up like new cans of worms. It's this kind of reins us in. So I'm thankful for that.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a good point.
That's a very good point. I talked about trying to my new thing is trying to funnel down and create less things instead of pulling on new threads. So all the JCB interviews are helping me do that. And now I've got a sub theme of just spinning out and just divulging into madness. People are watching me go crazy week after week.
All right. Well, that was a long one. Thanks for being patient with us, but it was so much information this week, and this is a good follow-up to our year-end review. So thanks, everybody, and we'll catch you next time.
Searching for clues, let's find you.